Hello. Coach Leanne and I are live here with you today. Welcome, everybody. So good to see you. I've got my fun headband on. We are talking about moving into the year 2023, right, Leanne?
We are. Hi, Susan. So great to be here with you today. Oh my goodness. How many days do we have left in 2022? If you are with
Tomorrow's
us,
the end of it.
no, I say if you're with us, type into the chat. We want to know that we're not here. Although I love working with Coach Susan, we would love to know that you're here with us. Type into the chat. How many days do we have left in 2022? Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Karen. Hey, Janice. So, how many days? Maybe you're in another part of the world and it's your tomorrow, right? I think
Mm,
Australia is a day ahead of us, right?
mm-hmm.
I know
Yeah,
we
good
have.
point.
So, in your world, how many hours or how many days do you have left in 2022? Susan's got her cute headband on. I have my sparkly, blingy tie, and maybe we'll be a little silly. And I've got a little bit of gold glasses. Just here in the moment. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah,
Oh,
Happy New
Susan.
Year.
So good
So,
morning, evening.
so glad to see you all here. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about how next year can be different. So I love to just this time of year, rounding the end of the year, to really reflect on the entirety of the year and then really focus on what's to come. It feels like a gift to just slow down and take a couple of days or just some time and spend some time reflecting.
Right. Susan, I love that you had put on the bottom of the screen, next year can be different. It
Hmm.
can be different than this year was. And this is a great opportunity for us, even here in this space. I know as I was preparing for this live, I made some notes for myself about what is it that I would want to be the same and what do I want to be different coming into 2022. So, oh, Janice is saying she needs her word. I got my word, but I'm not ready to share it yet. I too choose a word. Susan, do you choose a word?
I do. Yes, I've been thinking about that. Yeah, I spent some time last night. I've got some words kind of rolling around. I'm not sure exactly which one I'm going to land on yet, but I do that as well.
Excellent.
So I'm not sure everybody knows what we're talking about, choosing a word for the year. And maybe everybody does it a little bit different, but choosing a word where I invite God in to use that word in my life in some way, which is a little bit scary sometimes because how God chooses to reveal things to me is not always what I anticipate or hope for. It's always good, but sometimes a little scary.
It is, and I invite the Lord in as well to help me choose a word. So my word for 2022, Susan, was presence. Presence.
Mm,
So I've got it on my computer screen. I've got an extra monitor over here. I've got the word presence in big letters. It's about this big, actually.
mm.
And that was my word for this past year, 2022. And, every time I choose a word, I get challenged in that word and I grow in that word. And God gives me lessons in that word. What was your word for this year?
Recompense. Yeah. So just looking for restoration and yeah, very challenging for sure.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you
Ladies,
too.
do you pick a word? If you have a word, type it into the chat. We would love to be able to encourage you in some way. And we know that God meets us right where we're at,
Mhm.
right where we're at. And sometimes we love things the way they are because they're comfortable. And that can keep us stuck, right, Susan? It can keep
Mhm.
us stuck from making the changes in our lives that we want to make. And you and I were just talking right before we came live about this phrase right here.
Mhm.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. And if we want next year to be different, what is something we can do about that?
Mhm. When I was thinking about the title of this live, "Next Year Can Be Different," I was thinking there could be a lot of feelings about even hearing that statement, right? Can bring hope, maybe discouragement, disbelief, excitement? I'm wondering what you all are thinking when we reveal that topic. Next year can be different. What are you feeling about that?
Mm. Yeah, type into the chat. When you saw that, maybe you had an email from Leslie announcing that Coach Susan and I would be live today, and there was a reason why you clicked the button to go live.
Mhm.
What were those initial thoughts that you had? What was the emotion that came up in you that allowed you to push attend today, that you're here with us live?
Mm.
Excitement, knowing that you can be different, the possibilities and the
Mhm.
opportunities are there, and it can be a little bit scary. Hope.
Hope. Love it.
Here, Carrie, this is for you. Hope.
Oh,
There are
needing support.
Oh my goodness, needing support. Right
Don't we
on.
all? We do need support, don't we? All of us.
We really do, Susan. And I'm so grateful. We have a coaching team that we can support and encourage each other to continue to grow, to learn, and to work together as a team so we can come and serve you ladies. And, for me, why did I want to do this live today? Why did Leanne want to be here? Well, one thing, I love working with Susan. Another thing is I want my next year to be different in certain ways. And even though it scares me a little bit because I don't know oftentimes what's on the other side of change, it inspires me to know that I can continue to grow.
Mhm. I agree with that. And really just I wanted to be here to pump myself up, give myself a pep talk as much as hopefully doing that for you all too, is that next year can be different. And I really do believe it's important to think about what do you want to be different and make intentions on that to
Mhm.
step into this new year being different. And so if you're like Kathy and you're feeling the need for change, you're in the right place. We're here to talk about that today.
Indeed. And then how do we change? How can we really set ourselves up for success in order to have it be a little bit different? I'm really big on closing out a year well,
Mhm.
in addition to planning for the year ahead. And so as we think of closing 2022, we've got a couple of days left. What would be a gift that you could give yourself to close this year well? I'd love to hear from some of those. Golly, we've got, over 50 folks live with us here already. So, what is something that you are currently doing? Our friends here live with us on Leslie's public Facebook page. Just a reminder of
Yeah,
that,
thank you.
be careful and thoughtful about what you type into the chat. But what do you traditionally do to close out a year well? I would love to hear some of their ideas too, Susan. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I am curious because it seems so big to think about, last January. It seems like such a long time ago, right? To kind of recall what has been your journey over this year and what feels like it's sort of got a loose end. What is that process for you all? I'd love to hear some ideas because I think it's so
Mhm.
important. I do a lot of reflection.
Indeed. Reflecting on the last year and examining themes from the year and what God has taught you.
Oh,
I love that, Sandy. And so, as we examine, if we don't ever take time to pause, to breathe, and to ask ourselves some key questions, how will we ever know? Sometimes I think that we can buzz so fast, Susan, through life and through our days,
mhm,
especially if we are experiencing stress or challenges at work, at home, in our relationships. We can
mhm,
just kind of plow through and not take the time to pause and reflect a little bit. And then we miss the gift and the wisdom and the clarity that our past experiences could bring into our present.
mhm. I love that point. I think it's great Tiffany's wrote, be future focused, stop looking behind me, lost in regret. I don't think being lost in regret is going to be helpful, but looking behind can sometimes help us know how we want to move forward, right? Seeing those
Indeed.
themes, seeing where we want to grow, seeing what we need. Somebody mentioned needing more support, right? Looking back and saying, I didn't have enough support and I want to build in more support in my year can be so helpful. So I think it is important to look back, not in regret, but look back to see what was it that I needed that I didn't get enough of, and how can I give myself more of that in the coming year.
Indeed. Susan, I love that you shared that. When we think about looking back, we don't want to beat ourselves up, right? We want to
Mhm,
look back for information and opportunities so we can
mhm,
continue to grow. I believe that, I often say, ready or not, here we grow. When I wake up in the morning, sometimes that really comes up for me. It's like, wow, here's another opportunity for me to practice what it is that I'm coaching women on, what it is
mhm.
that the Lord is, imprinting in my heart. And so, my friends joining us here live, I would love to hear what is an experience that you have had in 2022 that has nourished your soul. What is
Mhm.
something that you experienced? Maybe it was a person, maybe it was a program that you did. Maybe you joined us for one of our coaching groups that we had in 2022. Maybe you are a new um, member of our tribe here and you're just leaning in to all that we have to offer here within our ministry here at Leslie Vernick and Co. What is something that has nourished you, your soul and
Mm.
your spirit, maybe your faith in 2022? I would love to see that in the feed. Susan, what about you? What is something that has really nourished you this past year?
Um, so for a long time, I had gone to an international Bible study and I took a break from that. And so I decided to go back into that. And that really does nourish me. It takes a deep dive into scripture, which I believe is important individually, but it also brings in that support element of people across the world studying the same thing and
Mm,
really taking a deep dive and seeing what God is doing in many people's lives through the same scripture has been really nourishing to me.
that's beautiful. Wow. There is
Mhm.
a tremendous amount of power in knowing that other people are reading the same passage and discussing the same passage each week.
Mhm.
Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing
I love it.
that.
I see
That's really
Kathy. My gift to myself was the E2C, joining our E2C group. Thank you for saying that, Kathy. We're actually mentioning that here today, and I'll put that up for you if you're interested in what Kathy had enjoyed from this year. Um,
I love
our
that.
group
Allison said
coaching.
the same thing. Allison, thanks, Allison. E2C was a blessing to her, one of the best things that she did for herself. So, E2C is our group 6-month group coaching program called Empowered to Change, hence E2C. And we're
Mhm.
going to be starting our E2C group the week of January the 10th. Can hardly wait. There are limited, very limited tight
Mhm.
spots left in that. But if you would like to
Yep.
join in with a group of 15 other women and one coach for 6 months, walking through Leslie's amazing material that she created, videos, handouts, homework. I call it home play,
Mhm.
and really doing a deep dive in to growth so you can have a brand new year walking with the Lord into new territory. Then you want to click the link below. And there's a video there from Leslie that she explains the program, as well as you can see all the different class time offerings that we have coming up for you in 2023.
Yes. So I would love to see you there. I know our classes have been really filling up. We recently had to add a couple more evening classes. So I know there are evening spaces, in particular Thursday at 5 o'clock is available. That one was opened. But otherwise, I think it's very limited. But we would love to see you. Leanne and I are very excited about leading those groups and empowering women to change in 2023.
2023, I'm such a wordy. 2023, what rhymes with three? 2023, it's time to fully be who God created you to be. What else would you put in? What else would you put in? If we don't purpose, pause and plan, we could just be in the same place that we are today if we don't set aside some time. And so knowing what energizes you and feeds your soul, and also knowing what depletes you. Do you know what depletes you? Something maybe you want to have less of in your life in 2023.
Mm-hmm. Danita say, I learned about protecting my peace, needing boundaries, using boundaries to protect your peace.
Protecting your peace. And that's something that we can do. So, how will you do that? One way is knowing what takes it away.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is hard. Sometimes, Susan, isn't it? I don't like to dwell on the negative. I'm a pretty positive girl, but I'm also realize that I can have blind spots. I can be over positive about something. I'm just being real. And it can prevent me from even setting a goal or having a desire or planning for something a little bit different moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tremendous realization. To know that you focus. I love being around you because you focus so much on the positive. It makes you so fun and bright and cheerful. But I understand what you're saying. Overly focusing on the positive can disrupt that balance of seeing maybe what needs to be changed and what's hurting you that you need to shift.
Absolutely. And if we don't, it's scary to do that. And it's hard and it's humbling. But unless we commit to the truth about what's really going on and being honest with ourselves, it's hard to admit sometimes with ourselves that we're not as happy as we want to be, or not as fulfilled, or we don't have the relationships and even providing the opportunities that we would want to have. You're worth it, my friends. You're worth planning and preparing for new experiences. Susan, as I was preparing for our time together today, I thought, what do I want more of in 2023? I want more intimacy. Oh, there's another 23, intimacy, right? So there's another one. Into me, you see. I want others to know me, the good, the bad, and the weird. There's a lot of that inside of me. And I want to see that in other people. And I want people to feel safe around me. And I want to feel safe around the people that I am with. And one way that I know that I can do that is to build relationship. So one what's the word I want? Opportunity that I'm going to step into is to create experiences for me and a small group of women that have a similar desire to grow, to do something different, to have a different kind of year. We're coming out of COVID. I don't know if we'll ever come out of COVID. You and I were talking about that a little bit, but what are we going to do with what we've learned about ourselves, about the world around us, about God? And I want to put that into action. I don't want it to just be head knowledge. I want to be able to walk out more of what he's taught me these last couple of years. So I'm going to create experiences. Yeah. Just like you jumping back into Bible study. I'm going to be facilitating a Bible study. Cannot wait for that. I haven't done that for years. And I'm super excited about that. And then I also want to have coffee or go for a hike with a small group of women, maybe a weekly, bi-weekly basis. I don't know yet how it's going to work. But one thing I know that we have to do if we do that is put it into our calendar.
Yes.
It's not going to happen.
Prioritize. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, and being specific. I love that you're being specific, and it sounds like you're
Mhm.
still developing this for the new year, but what is that gonna look like for you? And really defining that.
And to know the reason why.
Mm,
Why is that
mm,
important? And why is it that I even want to do that? Why is it important
yes.
for me to have a different year? I don't want to be depleted. I had a few situations this year that depleted me, and I realized that. And, not being afraid to acknowledge that and to own it. And some of the reason why I was depleted was all on me. It was because I did not prepare my heart or my mind or my spirit to walk into situations or
Mm,
conversations as my best self. And I know that working with our coaching team has helped me a lot. I had a few moments where I texted the coaching team, right? Susan, you were on the other end of that, and it was so sweet
mm.
because I'm like, wow, I really could use some prayer support right now. This is really, really challenging for me right now. And having your people that you can reach out to for the support that you need will help you have a different year if you haven't
Mhm.
done that in the past on a regular basis.
Yeah. So you're bringing up motivation. What is the
Mhm.
motivation for change? I was thinking about this last night as I was just kind of jotting down what some of my goals may be for the coming year, is really thinking about what am I going to lose by changing, and what am I going to gain by changing? Because both are going to happen, So even a simple example of getting on my Peloton, right? I'm going to lose a little bit of my lazy free time, which for me, that hurts, right? But hopefully, that gain column, when I'm writing down the losses and the gains, is going to really motivate me for change. But I want to be realistic that there's going to be some obstacles. There's going to be some days where I just want to be lazy, and to
So then
remind myself what those gains are.
that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Knowing that with every opportunity, an obstacle could come in. And,
Mhm,
like I appreciate when you said that kind of lazy time, you could lose some of
mhm,
that. I love that too. I have a desire to get more on the pickleball courts in the mornings than I have been because I've enjoyed this a lot, right? Holding a warm cup of coffee and just sitting on my back patio or in my comfy chair with my Bible instead of getting out on the courts first thing in the morning. But what it's cost me a little bit of my game. It's also cost me some physical exercise. So my body is tighter. My muscles are tighter. I'm not stretching like I was when I was hitting the courts. And so knowing I call it the pain gain. What is the pain and what is the gain?
mhm.
What's it going to cost me? And then how will it benefit me if I do that? And so getting clear on that. There's wisdom in gaining some clarity as we step forward, isn't there?
Yeah, because motivation is going to be easy week one, or easier, right? But what is this going to look like come next November, right? Is it going to just peter out? But to really figure out, why are we motivated? Why are we going to stick out this change for the year? Why are we going to hang on to these goals? What's going to keep us in it?
Indeed. And so, our dear friends here, type into the feed. If you were to think about what will keep you in it, what would you say? What would you say? I see a lot of same here's. Um, yeah, losing regret. What would be
Mm,
different if you purposed right now to have a year of no regret?
mm,
If you don't want regret, what do you want?
mhm.
So we can say, I don't want regrets, but then that's easy, right? I'm just going to challenge you here just a little. I'm challenging myself as I do it. But yeah, I don't want negative conversations either. I don't want
Mm.
yucky, immature relationships. So, what am I going to do about that then? Well, one thing I'm excited about E2C, right? I'm going to dive in with all of my groups and all of my ladies and do my own work too. as I coach you. I'm going to link up with my coaching team colleagues so we can show up the best for you, right? And we can support each other because we
Mhm.
have real lives too. We're just real women doing real life, just like each one of you.
Mhm.
And we purpose. We don't want regrets either.
Mhm.
And so, what is one
I
thing that
see.
you can do? Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
Well, I was just going to comment. There's several people who are saying accountability, just like you're saying, getting that support system to keep you in it, right? And that's the great thing about E2C. I'm looking forward to that too. Every other week, we're going to be meeting, right? It keeps me doing my homework and staying on task for sure, and then meeting together with everybody else. There's accountability in that.
There is. And when you gather together with the same group of women for 6 months for 90 minutes every 2 weeks, it's amazing how the
It's
Lord meets us.
amazing.
It is where we are at. And it's such a privilege. We just don't take it lightly here that you've chosen not only to be here with us live, but to trust you with your growth journey. And we're so inspired by your growth. And so, for those of you who have been walking with us in any of our coaching programs, we cherish you. And I just, personally just want to say thank you for your trust and confidence for choosing to partner with us for your growth and for God's glory. So I just want to take that moment and just say thank you for being here and joining with us. And, you doing your work inspires another woman to do her work. And so there's so much significance and value in who you are and how you choose to show up in the world and let go of regrets and to lean in with Jesus in ways that only He could hold your hand and have you walk into.
Mhm.
He's so mighty and He cares so deeply about your growth. And He doesn't want you to have a year in 2023 that will deplete you.
Mhm.
And part of that's your responsibility. It's like, what will you put into place? We're going to keep showing up here for you live. We're going to coach you. We're going to do all of those beautiful things. And you sharpen me. Susan, you
Mhm.
sharpen. I appreciate you. I love your headband. I really do.
Just trying to bring a little sparkle today. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Kathy says, "I wanna know I did everything I could to be the best me for everyone else." And I think that's lovely, Kathy, but you are worth that as well. God wants you to be your best you for you and for Him. He's created you, you're unique, and He cherishes you. And to show up as your best self will be so meaningful for you.
Mm. Love that, Susan. And, knowing what our best self is.
Mhm.
Susan, how do you know what your best self is? How how does one even figure that out? Right? Because I mean, the world will put all kinds of things on us and tell us
Yeah.
we should be or do a certain thing.
Mhm.
So how do we
Well, a big part of that for me, and this is a faith community, so I assume a lot of these women who are here today have a belief in Scripture, and so that's kind of a go-to for me is what is God calling me to, generally as His child, but then also specifically, what do I feel passionate about? What do I feel God speaking to me about personally in terms of my character? and
Mm,
and who I believe God created me to be and my purpose in life. And so that's a lot of the work that we do in our coaching groups, right? Is developing our best selves, figuring out who we are as people who God has called us to be. And what are those character traits that cause us to feel like we're not only in line with Scripture and with God, but in line with our own being?
I love that. We can, I think as Christian women, I've been doing this work for over 10 years as a coach, and the conversations that I have with friends, with family, with clients, with colleagues, we can mistake and we can think that everybody else is over us.
Mhm.
And one thing that if I could just deposit some love into our community here right now to remember that in God's economy, we are equal. And walking in alignment with the Lord in equality in our relationships is it's a noble calling to remember that somebody else isn't above us in that way.
Mhm.
And I know there was certain times in my life where I got that all mixed up. And I had a coach do this with me. One of my coaches, she was like, Leanne, you're putting this situation way up here and you're thinking you're way down here. What is that gap all about? What is that gap about? And that was some work, Susan, that I had to do on myself, was to figure out what was going on here in this gap. And that was me not bringing my best self or even honoring who God created me to be. I was hiding some things out of fear about what other people would think. And so I wasn't letting my true life or light shine. Just like your little blingy headband, my little blingy tiger, there's parts of us that are waiting to shine bright. And for whatever reason, stress, trauma, betrayal, beliefs, insecurities can help or cause us to hide that and to cover it up. And, God is about letting our light shine before him and before others. Because when we let our light shine, it gives somebody else permission, just like you, sister. Oh, there we go. Which way are you? There you are. But, we get to do this life. God's given us one precious life. What will we do with that?
Yeah, such a great question. What will we do with that one precious life? We are, yeah, we do.
Do you have them pulled up? Because I don't.
Yes, I will be happy to do that.
All right, great. Thank you, team, for letting us know that we have questions. How do you know what your best self is? How do you figure that out? Yeah, so Susan, did you get those yet? I'm sorry.
Well, I think Karen wrote that. Karen's supporting us, and so she's taken our question and put it in there for us. All right, let me read this, and then you can give some thoughts on this. I'm a dreamer and a planner, and my husband is not. Is it wise or over-functioning to go ahead and make plans and just let husband tag along in the new year, or can I make plans without him? I feel like this could be disrespectful, but also is easy for me. Am I being selfish?
Okay, I love that question for many reasons. One is I just had this conversation with my husband like 30 minutes ago. So he made it. I'll speak from, I'm just going to keep it very real. That's just the only way I know to roll anyway. But maybe my situation was to benefit this community as well. So my husband made a decision to have an appointment and told me about it 50 or 30 minutes prior to the appointment. But I had to be here live. I had an opportunity to be here live, so I couldn't change it. And I will share from my personal experience that I would have appreciated if he would have invited me in sooner. So what I will share with each one of you is my little equation, if you will, on how I make those decisions on my own time versus our we time. So I have my me things and he has his he things. And then we also have we things. And so I believe that my me time to feed my soul, those are things I can plan on my own to make sure that I'm self-caring and I'm stewarding my life, my time, my energy, and building stuff in. And then there are the we times in my relationships, whether it be with my kids, my grandkids. I've got 7 of them, right? And so there are we times, but there are also their times, right? And so I think that we get to look and see if we've got some balance in those. If I was all heavy on the me time, then it would be really hard to have the we time. And if I wasn't inviting him in.
Mhm.
So I don't know if any of that makes sense. I'm kind of just shooting from the hip here a little bit. Just I'm still processing what happened in my own household just, an hour ago. And so for me, I would have liked him to invite me in a little bit sooner. So I would have been able to plan and prepare and get my head and my heart in the right spot to actually have a mature conversation about it.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, does that make any sense, Susan?
It does, and I love the word you're using, invite. That's one of my favorite things. Um, so inviting your husband along is a much better picture than, dragging him along, right?
That's
So, giving him the invitation, right, might be a good way to, respect him as a human being. Say, "These are the things that I wanna do in the coming year. I would love to invite you to these things." So, you make a great point of having the me things and the we things, right? So I think, for the person who wrote in this question, yeah, it's not selfish for you to create a list of things that you wanna do, in your story, but also to have those things, those couple things that you wanna invite your husband into. And I can hear you use the word over functioning, right? So that sends up a red flag to me, right? That something may be going wrong there. If you're over functioning, which makes me think of the picture of you kind of pulling him along to something he doesn't really want to invest in. But if you invite him, you're giving him the option. And if he doesn't want to take that invitation, then maybe that becomes a you thing and not one of the we things.
Susan, I love that. That was like a truth bomb drop. And so when we invite somebody in, if they choose not to join, that's on them. It doesn't mean that you can't create experiences that you want to have. And so then maybe what you thought would be a we thing turns into a me thing. Are you okay with that? And that's doing our own personal work. Yeah. Something that I have done, and I haven't done it yet this year, but I do a vision board. And one thing I thought about doing this year, and it's risky. I don't even know if I dare say it out loud. Okay, I'm going to say it out loud. Um, but I thought about inviting my husband in to making a vision board with me about things that we would like to do together in the we
Mhm.
category this year. And so, for those of you who don't know what a vision board is, would it be helpful if I grabbed mine off my wall? Because I have it hanging. I could show you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. Love to
I'll be
see
right
it.
back. Hang on 1 second.
Such a great idea to create a vision board. Just your
Okay.
ideas for the year. Oh, there it is. Beautiful.
Yeah, so this is one that I did last year, and I have it hanging on my wall. And basically, you just take you could get a bunch of magazines, and you cut out keywords or and pictures that help represent some things that you want to experience in the year to come.
Mhm.
So so anyway, what would that be like? You could do it with your kids, you could do it with your spouse, you could do it with girlfriends. What do we want to do together as a community? So anyway, that was something that I found to be helpful, but I'm praying about whether or not I want to invite my husband into that. That's a pretty intimate space for me. I've never done that before,
Mhm.
about inviting him to create a vision board. I don't know if he would. It's kind of my jam. I'm more the wordy. So he may say no. And what will I do with that? Will that stop me from creating my own? I hope not. I hope not.
Mhm.
I love that question.
Yeah. Well, keep us updated, Leanne, what you choose to do. I'm going to read our next question.
Please do.
How can I stay healthy with a husband who blames me for not wanting to go to counseling? We tried it and it didn't work. We are separated in the same house and he is picking me and trying to remain calm. When I finally give up and react, then he is calm and happy for some days and it all starts again. So he's picking on you, as I'm guessing what that means.
Mm,
I finally give up and react. So you're getting weary.
right. Very tired. and depleted.
Mhm. And depleted. So this is where we might ask you, what do you need when you get tired and depleted in order to keep moving forward towards your goal?
Indeed. And I think that what is a lesson that you've learned about yourself in that space? What does the
Mhm.
Lord really want you to know about being depleted? And I'm sorry that you're navigating that. That's really hard. And I
Mhm.
just want to hold that space really tenderly. It's hard to live in the same home with someone who does not help you to feel safe and to be seen and to
Mhm.
be heard for the amazing woman that you are. It's challenging. One thing that I know you can do is find another safe person that you
Mhm.
can share with and that knows your story. We talk about that a lot in Empowered to Change, don't we, Susan, about finding people that we can be real with? Because
Mhm.
when we keep things so silent, it almost is like we're pretending that everything is okay when it's not. And pretending keeps us stuck. It's like we put blinders on and we can't fully see. And so I just would encourage you. I'm so proud of you for asking that question here in this
Mhm.
space. And you've now opened up a door to what's possible. So, based on what you've heard us share, what is one thing that you can do in order to have that different year for 2023? One small step. It doesn't have to be like this really big thing. Maybe it's you're going to carve out 30 minutes every day for a gratitude journal. Maybe that's one thing you could do is write down some things that you know to be true about who God says you are. Maybe it's claiming a verse or a word for the year, something that will help you to focus and not let somebody else define who you are, but let God
Mhm.
define who you are.
Mhm. Yeah, and it can be really hard to remain calm when your environment is not calm. So if you're in a burning home, you can try really hard not to get burned, right? But if you're in a burning home, you're probably going to get burnt, right? And so sometimes what you need to do for yourself is remove yourself rather than trying harder not to get burned, right? So you may be in a chaotic space and trying to remain calm in a chaotic space, and that may not be possible.
I love that you brought that up, Susan. And oftentimes we are in chaos because a boundary is being violated in some way. And maybe there's, a boundaryless marriage or relationship. And, if you don't know what's okay with you and what's not okay with you, what you will do and what you won't do, that can cause a lot of chaos and confusion. And so we talk about boundaries a lot in Empowered to Change. I am a
Mhm.
firm believer that no relationship can survive in healthy mode without some form of a boundary.
Mhm.
God gave us a boundary in our skin. Our skin is a very tangible boundary. It covers up all of our necessary and vital organs. If my heart was out there and my liver and my kidneys were just out there to be exposed by the elements, I could not survive. My brain as well. And so I've got skin on is a God-given boundary. And so God is the creator of boundaries. And so perhaps there might be a boundary that you can exercise walking into 2023 that will allow you to have a safer space in your own home.
Mhm.
And it might be, I have a lock on my office door. So when I'm live like this, whether my kids are here or my husband's around or a neighbor pops over, they can't just open my door and walk in. That would be disruptive for me. And so I know that I will not be disrupted when I'm working. Therefore, there's a lock on my door. That's a boundary. And if I ever need
Mhm.
time alone, I have that option too. I can lock my door and give myself space. So having a safe space in your home that you can go to where you know that you can nourish your soul, and
Mhm.
then knowing or having something in that space that will nourish your soul that you don't have to go
Yeah.
grab from somewhere else and bring with you. So it's setting
Mhm.
yourself up. And Susan, you talked about that calm and the burning fire. So again, I found myself getting a little bit rattled this morning when I wasn't invited into a conversation soon enough. So I wrote on my wrist, calm. So I can remember that's who I want to be. Susan, you're a beautiful example in that.
Mm.
You're one of the
Thank you.
most calm, centered women that I know. And your gentle spirit encourages me and inspires me for more of that. So thank you for being an example.
Thank you for saying that, Leanne. That's so sweet of you. Um, yeah, and we've got a question here. What if you can't leave your environment? So maybe you can't move out of your home right now, but like Leanne is sharing, she finds a space within her home. She's put a lock on her door, right? She's created some sort of space for herself that she can get away. So um, if you're trying to heal from trauma, it's about teaching yourself how to keep yourself safe, how to regulate. So part of, writing on her wrist is reminding herself to regulate emotions. I'm sure when you see that, Leanne, it causes you to breathe deeply, to calm your nervous system, to relax your body, to maybe give yourself a pep talk. I can be okay, right? Is I will keep myself safe. Sometimes that does mean leaving your home, even for a walk or a drive, right?
Or even a
And then
shower.
coming back or a shower. Yes, exactly. Great point.
Sometimes it's just giving yourself that space. And it does. When I look down and I see this, and sometimes I'll just, these are just tips I've learned because I could grow in the area of self control sometimes. All right. Just keeping it real. And so when I have this on my wrist, I can put my thumb. So this is what I do. I put my thumb right over the top of it and I remind myself of the woman I want to be. I don't want to be, or I am not a woman who loses her cookies. I'm not a woman who loses her cookies. I am a calm woman. And so that may not be true all the time. All right. I have got a lot of growing to do still, but that is what I know God is calling me to. And so, when we talk about having a different year, knowing what it is that you want to experience and how you want to show up in your relationships is part of the work that we get to do. No one can do that part for you. I wish somebody else could make me calm, but that's up to me. And the one who will always answer my invitation is Jesus.
Mhm.
He is like the best regulator of my emotions if I invite him in. But when I try and do it on my own, Susan, that is when I fall short. When I try and do it in my own strength. And
Mhm.
so these little reminders in my world help me to remember who he created me to be and that I'm created for more and I have more capacity than I think I do to make the changes I want to make in my life. But being
Mhm.
aware of what I want to shift, that's a big thing.
That is a big thing. And I think it's so beautiful that we can go to the Lord to co regulate. So if we aren't able to regulate ourselves, sometimes we can rely on someone else in our environment to help us regulate, like a mother infant duo, right? The mother can help the child regulate by looking into her face, soothing her, having a calm voice. If we don't live with somebody that can help us co regulate, we always have Jesus, his kind words to us, his encouragement, his love and support to help calm us and soothe us. He is our shepherd, right? He makes us lie down in green pastures. That, to me, is that picture of co-regulation.
Indeed. Oh, Susan, I love that you brought that up. Psalm 23 is so incredibly beautiful. If you really break it down, and maybe this might be this is another tool. I've done it myself. I've helped clients do it. Go through Psalm 23 and put your name in there.
Mm-hmm. Powerful.
It is. And owning scripture, owning what God says about you and where he wants to take you. That's something that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw a question for me
Do you
on
see the one for you, the personal one? You feel
will.
prepared to answer that?
Sure. I'm pretty open book here. And I know this is a public page. One thing that I know is that maybe some of my falters will help you not stumble as much. So I'm okay to answer this question. It says, the question is, if you're listening and it says, Leanne, do you get accused of avoiding when you get away to take care of yourself? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that happened just today because I had to walk away from a conversation when I wasn't being heard. And I said, I'm sorry, I've got a live to do. I don't have time to finish this conversation right now. And I can get accused of avoiding. And sometimes I am avoiding, and then I'll own it. And I'll say, you know what? You're right. I am not prepared to have this conversation right now. I don't want to have to apologize later for my dysregulation right now. And then there are other times, like today, I was able to actually stand in core for the most part. I did pretty good. Okay. And I was able to say, I am more than happy to have a conversation with you if that conversation can be met with a level of dignity and maturity.
Mm-hmm.
But if it can't, then you're right. I will avoid talking to you right now because it's not the kind of conversation I want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that that's helpful.
So I like to use a different word for that, Leanne. So you're saying avoid. I say choosing to delay or choosing not to enter that space. Sometimes it is avoiding, and you've said you will own up to it if you're avoiding it, right? But sometimes we can make the choice not to step into a certain space because it's not good for us in that moment. And we need times to regulate. We need time to think about it and calm ourselves so we don't get out of alignment with our core values, right? I don't consider that avoiding. Someone else might read it the same because
Okay.
they can look the same, right, to somebody else. Only you know your heart. And so you may be accused of avoiding, but only you know if you're avoiding or you're choosing not to step into that space. And that's what's important. What's between you and God, right?
Right. Oh, Susan, that's so good. And knowing our own motivations of our heart and
Mm-hmm.
knowing why it is that we're setting the boundaries that we're setting. So for me, it wasn't a boundary that I put on my husband, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it was a conversation with him. If his family tells him I said it or his friends, I'm okay with that because it's real. That's just who I am. So I'm just going to shoot straight. If he chooses to see it as avoiding, that's on him. That's the lens that he is looking at it through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we can remember. We all have our lenses based on our life experiences. Okay. And so for me, all right, here we go. Here goes a little bit of blame. So I choose to have a transformative lens that I'm going to look through. I don't want to be the same Leanne in 2023 that I am in 2022. There's areas in my life that I want to continue to grow in. So therefore, I have, oh, this has got to be a screenshot, Susan, you with your little gold. But so here's the deal. I choose to look at it I'm transforming. I am that beautiful butterfly. I've spent a lot of 2022. I was sharing that my word for 2022 was presence. So no matter where I am or who I am with, I am fully present with them. I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to be distracted. I may not even answer a call or an email right away. I'm going to be fully present. And so by doing that, it has allowed me to have a little bit calmer perspective. and I'm not going to lose my cookies, and I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to come into the room with my dukes up, but I'm going to have a boundary that says I will not participate in a conversation if I'm being talked down to or not heard. If you can hear me, I'm happy to be in a conversation. I will hear you. And it's okay if I remove myself from that conversation then. That's not avoiding. And like you said, Susan, other people can see it as avoiding, but it's self-care for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the boundary I have on myself. And I've shared this in lives before as well. I will not have a conversation like that after 8 p.m. That will continue into 2023. So there are going to be things that you learned in 2022 that you want to carry forward. And then there are going to be things that you're going to want to let go of. Do you have the support that you want, need in order to walk into 2023 with some new tools in the tool belt? We have tools for you in E2C. If you want to join us, we also
Absolutely.
have a lot of resources. These lives that we've been doing are here for you to watch and rewatch, to share, and to encourage yourself with. What else would you add, Susan?
Yeah. Someone's asking, can you show your vision board again? It was so lovely.
Oh, absolutely. Hang on, let me grab it. Oh, there's a glare. There we go. Is that better if I tip it?
Yeah, it looks great. Helper of Hearts. I love that, Leanne. I think you've been successful in that this year. What a lovely reminder. Helpful of Hearts you put on there. Such a lovely reminder of where you're going. So you said you post that up on your wall. You can walk into your office every day and have a reminder of the direction you're headed for that year, right? So if you choose to create another one, it will continue your growth. Maybe some same themes will be there, maybe some new themes. But what a great picture to remind yourself of how you want to ground yourself in 2023.
Right. And, that's the stuff nobody can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is an individual, and this is where asking yourself some of those questions. How are we doing on time? Wow, we are almost an hour. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
Goes
you.
quick, doesn't it?
It goes so super fast. And so, but asking yourself those questions, like we talked about at the beginning, for a new year, what depleted you in 2022? What nourished you? Do you know? Do you know what depleted you? And then, what are the biggest lessons that you learned? I learned some big lessons about myself in 2022. And I've got a lot of journaling still to do. I've got a planner that I use that really helps me to focus. And so I'm going to be doing some quiet time work with the Lord here these next couple of days. And then, what do I want to have more of? I want more real quality, loving conversations. And I want to be able to build up and to be built up, right? And to be challenged to be more. And then knowing what it is I'm scared to commit to. Because it's scary. Can we just be real, Susan?
Mm-hmm.
In the work that we do, when we commit to grow and change, it's scary because we don't know what's always on the other side of change. The unknown is there. And are we willing to embrace the unknown? Because as we shift and change, and as we take steps into a new year with new possibilities, we're going to realize we have choices to make. And those choices are going to have some consequences. And some of those consequences are going to be really beautiful. And others are going to be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
What will we do with that? Because it's a both and kind of life that we live.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when we step into change, God is so good to us. He gives us lots of opportunities to practice, doesn't he?
Oh,
And
thanks for
that's
that reminder.
and partly that's what makes it scary, right? Because we know God is going to show up for us and give us opportunities to practice those hard things, to really challenge us to be our best selves and to grow, because growing is hard and it takes lots of effort. and there's pain involved, right? And we got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable when we're stepping into change.
Indeed. And we were never created to do those types of changes alone. And so having others, safe others, like in Empowered to Change, or find a community of women to link arms with that will inspire you and help you to grow. As a butterfly does all of its growth and change, there's so much wisdom in that. But the caterpillar comes into this world itty bitty, teeny tiny, and it spends so much of its time gobbling up information. Well, I mean, gobbling up food. And I put it
Mm-hmm.
in my life. This is how I look at my own life, as I've spent a lot of years gathering up information, watching videos, listening to podcasts, getting coaching, getting counseling, reading books. Got a whole library behind me of self-help and encouraging books and that kind of thing. And then there comes a time where the butterfly goes into the chrysalis and it's quiet and it's alone time. And it transforms and it turns into goo. Did you know that a caterpillar absolutely turns into goo inside the
I
chrysalis?
did not know that.
Yeah. And then God recreates this beautiful butterfly, and it has to struggle to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to cut open the cocoon, the lifeblood does not make it to the end of the wings, and it will not fly. And so the struggles that you're experiencing, whether you're in home separated, you've got wayward kids, there's parental alienation going around, maybe you've been betrayed. Maybe 2022 is a year that you wish you could close a chapter on and never look at it again. We get that. Hard stuff. Really, really hard and painful. What will you do with that? Hard and painful. And will you invite someone in to help you navigate it in such a way that will allow you to get that lifeblood all the way to the end so that you can fly in 2023? It is about being free to be all God created you to be. Yeah. We want to be that for you.
Mm-hmm. What a beautiful picture you painted for us, Leanne. So I just want to say to you ladies, if you're out there and you're feeling like goo, Leanne has just given us some hope. If you feel like you've gone inside and you've just turned to goo, God is creating something beautiful. You're in a hard space, but there's something beautiful that's going to come of that.
There is. And trusting that process, Susan, and being okay with the goo. I mean, I've had a lot of goo moments. Mm-hmm. And it's icky and you feel empty, you feel depleted, you feel like you're not contributing, whatever it is. There's all kinds of stories that we can tell ourselves in the goo. But when we know that the goo is to make you new, there's purpose in that. And so knowing and looking at the lessons learned in that moment, and what do we want to do with what we have learned? Because we could shelf it really easy and not pay attention to it. But I want to just remind all of us, and when I'm reminding y'all, I'm reminding myself, just being real here, that the lessons are there for me to grow into and to acknowledge, to appreciate, and to be aware of, and to accept that I don't have it all figured out. I just really don't. But with Jesus, all things are possible. And he's walking with me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I found this verse, Leanne. I'll just share this before I know we got to go. But Isaiah 52:12. I thought this was such a beautiful verse for this time of year with this ending and new beginning. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go in flight. For the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. He knows where you've been. He knows where you're going. He's with you.
Thank you, Susan. That's very powerful. Could you repeat that address again for us?
Isaiah 52:12.
It's amazing. Thank you. What a gift. Would you read it one more time?
Yeah. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go in flight. For the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard.
My goodness. That's beautiful. So when you read that, Susan, I'm curious for you if you feel comfortable. What about that is super meaningful for you as you prepare to have a different year this year?
Mm-hmm. So when I read that, I was just thanking God for where He has brought me, what I've been through, and Him being with me through that, and to where He's asking me to go. He already knows, right? He's already there. He knows where I'm going. He's leading. He's behind me. He's before me. That's
He's already.
support.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into your precious heart and your journey. It's a real gift. And thank you for sharing that passage of scripture. I think that will be a beautiful passage of scripture for me to claim as I get prepared to do my journaling that I want to get to today. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing so much today too, Leanne. That's so meaningful. And I thank you all for joining us. Do you have any
Mm.
parting words, Leanne, before we say goodbye to everyone?
No, I just want that scripture to just be right
Linger.
here. I do.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good to see you all. Thank you for joining us. What's coming up next, Leanne?
Well, what's coming up next? Go for it. Do you have
Yeah, I'm
anything?
just looking. I don't think our support team has put anything next. I think what's next is we're starting Empowered to Change, right? That's coming right up. So if you're at all interested, go to leslievernick.com/change. We would love to see you in one of our classes.
Indeed. They start the week of January 10th. So you have just a little bit of time left to
Mhm.
reserve your seat at the table. It would be a privilege to walk with you into
Yeah.
2023.
All right. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.